wow. Okay, they tell me how much I'm getting paid. I'm like, from zero.
To hero.
From zero. I'm like, okay, so I do this, right? But I was so they appointed me as a tutor for the law of contract.
Yes.
I'm with law of contract for a month until my master's supervisor says, I want to motivate for you to be an assistant lecturer. Okay?
Oh, out of the blue as well.
Yes.
What?
She calls me. I'm in Soweto chilling. And I remember it was the weekend. I just get a random call from my supervisor. I panic. She's like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. She's like, okay. So I want to appoint you as an assistant lecturer. Would you be interested? I'm like, okay, what does an assistant...
And did you have like a relationship with her?
Yeah, she was my... not only my master supervisor, but she was also teaching the coursework for labor law.
Okay, so you had
So I did have
interactions.
slightly, yeah. She'd see me in class and everything. So, but like she taught us in final year too, but she didn't know me at that time. Why? Because I was really not confident to raise my hand and answer questions,
or say
even
things.
though I know things. You know when you know things and it sits here and just talk, but you just can't.
You know what it feels like? Also, it feels like because you've been holding on for so long, then God sends you into the lion's den, like having to lecture hundreds and hundreds and all of that.
Yeah, it's like you've been quiet. Please talk now.
Yes,
Show people
for you to speak. So you get this call.
So, and I'm like, definitely, I'll do it. But I process afterwards. I'm like, okay, that means I'm going to be a lecturer.
Sure.
Okay, cool. I can do this. And I remember, hey, man, you said you wanted to do this job, but you thought you could only come back when you're 50. You're 24 now.
Yeah.
And it's coming to you. It was really an amazing moment. I told my mom, she was what? Like, you're going to be a lecturer? Are you serious?
What a tangible representation.
It was absolutely amazing. And I start the job. I had to obviously resign from the tutorship. I was only a tutor for a month.
Okay.
With law of contract. And also, I'm very grateful to that course facilitator for law of contract, Professor Michelle van Eyck, because there's one time when she asked me, you have to teach this class.
Really?
Like run a tutorial for the whole group. Okay. And law of contract is a huge module.
Yes.
Like you have tons and tons of students in there. So that was my first time standing in front of a huge group of students. Yeah. And afterwards, she's like, you've never done this before? I'm like,
you're
no. Natural. So that was my first exposure, and it allowed me to find my groove.
Sure.
What type of a lecturer I want to be. And then I left that module, and then I started being an assistant lecturer. But the thing is, you can't exactly teach before, or rather until you get your master's. So remember, they appointed me while I was doing my master's.
Yes.
So at that time, I didn't start the actual lecturing until the following year.
Okay.
And yeah, that's when the journey started.
All right. So you did your master's for 1 year.
Yes, my master's was in labor law coursework. So it is a year.
Okay. Yeah. And then what motivated you to do labor law as opposed to any other masters?
Yeah. This one is a little profound now.
Okay, is an
I remember my aunt was working at this company, right?
Yes.
So it was outsourced, I think, by Metro Rail. So they were cleaners there. And the working conditions were insanely horrible. So every time she'd come back from work, she'd, relay the stories. We have to use these extreme chemicals. We're not getting PPE. We're not getting any gloves. We're not getting anything.
Sure.
Sometimes they get paid, sometimes they don't.
Ooh.
Sometimes they get 50% of the salary. Sometimes they get the entire salary. So I remember getting this burning sensation, like, what? There's no way. There has to be something in law that speaks about this.
And that can protect this
people. The workers. At the time, I didn't know it was called labor law.
Yeah.
But I knew my interest was sparked at that time. So I get to final year, and here's Professor Fourie. And she'll tell you, labor law is amazing.
And she is also amazing at teaching it. Oh, my goodness.
So imagine you already have this feeling or that thought back then to say, man, there has to be an answer for this problem. And now you get exposed to it. But the person who's exposing you to that branch of law is extremely passionate about it.
She is passionate. Ooh.
she's extremely passionate about it, and she teaches her soul. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she is very passionate.
So I was like, I found it.
This is it.
This is it. That's how I knew, okay, I'm going to go do labor law as a master's.
No, it's actually very profound, and it's crazy because we still have these issues in South Africa. We still have a lot of labor issues.
Yeah.
So I work for Legal Wise, right?
Okay.
And then a big part of our clientele is people from previously disadvantaged groups, and many people have these issues where employers don't pay them, or pay them at their own time, or pay them half, a quarter, 75%.
Yeah.
And I remember this one time I was heartbroken when somebody said they get paid 3.5, but their employer still does not want to pay the full 3.5. And in my head, I'm like, firstly, can you see the economy? Secondly, how is a person supposed to survive on 3.5 in South Africa? And this person was talking about, oh my God, my kids are not going to school. I don't know what to do. I'm like, this person needs to look after a family.
My goodness.
With
on
3.5.
that 3.5.
And you still want to cut their salary, like make it make sense.
I mean, you get people who don't even, there's minimum wage, and it really is minimum,
and
it's quite low.
I really think, and this is a personal opinion, I really think they need to revise that. And we may not be in a good economic space for it to go up, but I think the minimum wage in our country is it's wild.
Really
it doesn't
low.
match the lifestyle.
It really is low, and I mean, you need to weigh it against the price of life.
Yes.
Like you look at the food basket, a simple food basket now.
Yes.
And you look at how much it costs to get bread, to get maize meal, to get rice, to
Basics.
get chicken. These are your basics. And then you weigh it against the minimum wage. And you're not saying people should only buy food with that money. It's supposed to sustain their entire...
Imagine. And when you look at it, they end up just buying food. How are they supposed to get to work?
Yeah.
How are they, their upkeep? How are they supposed to look after themselves?
It really is, it's bad.
Yeah, it's so sad, man. Yeah. Okay, so now you assisting, what was your job like as an assistant lecturer? What did you do? And also, is it a thing? Or it was almost like God's favorite kid type of thing?
No, it is a thing.
No, God does have faves where positions are created for certain individuals because they are excellent.
I see that. Not in this case, though. No, it is a thing.
Okay.
It is a thing. I remember when I was doing my final year, there was an assistant lecturer for the law of evidence.
Okay.
So
and it's always those tough modules.
Yeah. I remember her. So I knew it existed. So when I started, right, like I said, I got appointed just before I finished. So I couldn't teach from I think around June to the end of the year. So my role was mostly administrative at the time.
Okay.
Which is why you'd see me in some of the labor law classes with Porphyry. I was just assisting here and there. And then in, I think 2020, that's when I got my first module.
Okay.
I'm co-lecturing with a colleague of mine. The module is Introductory Labor Law. I'm like, yay.
Okay. Love that.
Love that. But you recall, this is COVID now. 2020, it's COVID. So we are lecturing, but you are looking at a screen.
Oh.
And it's remote learning, remote teaching and learning. So the only time I get to actually stand in front of a group was after COVID.
And how did the first day feel like?
I was nervous.
Really?
Yeah, I was nervous because the module was a first year module, huge group, 500 students.
Sure.
And you're standing in front of them and they're just looking at you. But they're like, you're my age, Muswela.
Yes.
They're looking at you like, this one is young, But what I learned from that first exposure while I was a tutor was that sometimes break the ice. So I would kind of just do a little bit of an icebreaker.
Okay.
For us to get comfortable with each other. And once the ice is broken, we jump into the content.
Sure.
But you don't want to be a robot when you are a lecturer. You want students to be able to relate to you and see you a human being.
Yes.
If you have to tell them about your story a little bit, how you got there, so they can get a picture, do that. As you go along while you're lecturing, joke with them, laugh with them. Don't just stand there and be all ice cold, because they will reciprocate that energy.
Yeah.
So yes, I was nervous, but the ice was broken, and it was a good relationship.
How long was the lecture?
So it varies between 45 minutes and 1 hour 30. 1 hour
Okay.
30, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it varies. Sometimes you get 45, sometimes you get the longer ones. Yeah. So, but it was good.
You enjoyed yourself.
I think that's the moment I found that, okay, this is my career. This is what I'm doing. I could do this forever.
All right.
Yeah.
So you never at any point thought, maybe articles, maybe I could be an attorney, maybe I could go to court.
Yeah. Look, the door is not closed on that still for me. I do think that it's good to diversify. And, you mentioned things like consultancy and stuff like that. So the legal profession is really, really wide.
Sure.
It's broad. There's so much that you can do. So I don't want to completely say I will never do my articles. No, because I love labor law. I worked, volunteered at the pro bono office at the labor court, Saslow's pro bono office. And it was good to be on the ground and really to see people, to hear their stories, to help them. So I don't want to say I'm never going to do that. I still have that burning sensation.
Yes.
No, I do have to be out there at some stage of the game.
All
So
right.
even now, I won't necessarily say I don't want to ever do articles.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
All right, love that. So okay, now you lecturing. So what does your day as a like if we say, how on TikTok they always say a day in my life as a doctor. So maybe take us through a day in your life as a lecturer.
Okay. So it's very flexible, I'd say. Okay, so maybe let me start there. We don't necessarily lecture every day.
All right.
Most people lecture at minimum 2 times a week. I lecture now 4 times a week. Okay, so I see 2 different groups of students, but I teach them the same thing. So the day will typically look like, depending on what your class time is, that will probably be when your day really starts.
Okay.
So I'll go to campus. I don't believe in doing lecture prep on the same day.
All right.
I prep for my lectures prior. So you obviously have to have a PowerPoint presentation. You do your research, you formulate this. And I'll go to campus and meet my students. The class also varies. It's about 45 minutes, sometimes 1 hour 30. And the groups are smaller this year, so it's much more intimate.
Okay.
You have your PowerPoint there, you do your thing, and then afterwards, then you'll consult.
Okay.
So that's the time set aside for students to come to you, ask questions, do whatever it is they want to do. But the key thing also is that, yes, the core business of a tertiary institution is teaching and learning. But as a lecturer, research and innovation is huge.
Part.
Yes.
Sure.
So outside of the lecturing, it's really a small part of the work. Most of my day is research, writing. Writing abstracts and sending them to conferences, going to conferences, presenting papers there. And that also was quite an experience.
Yes, because I was about to ask, you'll call me if I'm wrong, you co-authored a book, ne? Or you contributed a chapter.
Yeah.
How was that experience? How does it feel that there's a chapter that we quote and say Katleho? So according to Katleho.
It's an amazing feeling. And we spoke earlier about collaboration and not existing as an island. I'm a product of that. When I got to the faculty, there were colleagues who wanted to help me integrate and do that. So one colleague, Mrs. Khomozo Mafamadi, was like, hey, there's a conference and I would like for us to contribute to that. And it's going to yield, that was a journal article. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. We collaborate, we write together, it's published.
Love that.
The name is there. And I'm like, what?
What's happening?
Yeah. And then the book chapter was even bigger because it's an actual book. I have the copy.
It's an
I
actual
have
book.
it and
Yeah.
I can page there and see my name. So it was really amazing to know that you can make those types of contributions and people can read your work and see what you're about and what your research is about. So but also the conferences, hey, because there's authoritative sources in your field, right?
Yes.
You mentioned you mastered in banking law.
Banking law. That
So
Professor Hugo
that's
was
exactly
just like,
right.
we couldn't even lie in that class because it's like the god of banking.
That's exactly right. So you know those authoritative
Sure.
sources and you know that, okay, if I'm ever going to write anything on banking, these are the voices that I can quote.
Sure.
And they are authoritative. So same thing in all other disciplines, same thing in labor law. So here I am at a conference in Mauritius and all of those authoritative sources are in the same room.
Sure.
I'm like, how did I get here?
Dreamy.
I'm like, how did I actually get here?
Sure.
But now, imposter syndrome comes and says, nah, you don't deserve to be here. I panic. I remember I was at the conference and I had I think a mini panic attack. I removed myself and went to the bathroom a little bit just to breathe. I was feeling overwhelmed. I felt like these people are big in labor law and social security law. And not only am I in a room with them, but I'm going to present my own research to them. And it scared me.
Sure.
So I had to kind of just take a breather, pray a little bit, remind myself that you worked hard, you are working hard, you're setting route for your career. Don't panic, don't be nervous. And I went back. The following day was the day of my presentation and I just knocked it out.
Wow.
I just felt, you know what? I can't look at this negatively.
Yes.
I have to look at it in the sense that, yes, all of these people are massive names in labor and social security. And I get the privilege of presenting my research to them. I get the privilege of them raising their hands after my presentation and asking me questions and making comments. And that's how you grow.
Sure.
So, so the day in the life, lecturing is a huge part of it, but it really, it's not all of it.
Yes.
The research and innovation is
And the conferences.
The conference.
So you guys travel for free.
We travel. We travel there.
So do you guys like get allowances when you travel?
Yeah. So basically you get a fund. Let's say it's not really for free, hey? Actually, you're working for it.
Okay.
Because when you publish, you'll get incentivized for those publications.
Okay.
And that money will go into your trust fund. That's what you use then to register for conferences and travel for it. Yeah.
But what if your publications, it's not make sure?
If it's not make sure
then you're sitting down, you're not going.
Yeah, you're not going. Or you'll be subsidized.
All right.
By the faculty. Like, for instance, the law teachers conference that was in Sun City earlier, I was presenting there. The faculty will subsidize and send everybody because it is a law teachers conference. We're going to present papers. We're going to publish. So publications will come out of those things too.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. And then the marking?
Oh my gosh.
You missed the biggest part of your job.
Oh my goodness. I do not like the marking part. Why? Because it's a mundane task.
Yeah.
Let's call it that. You're sitting and you're reading the same thing over and over again, possibly, if they know what they are writing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not fun, but it's a key part of the job. You have to do it and you have to do it well.
Okay.
Because you have people's futures in your hands like this. You can't be unnecessarily strict is what I've taught myself. When you start, you want to be strict. You have this authority. I'm the lecturer.
Yes.
But then I'm like, no, wait. This strictness it's okay, but it must be limited.
Yes.
So when you're marking, you don't want to be unnecessarily strict. But then, of course, you don't want to compromise the integrity of the qualification.
Yes.
So you can't now issue free marks for nothing. Students have to have worked for this qualification and it needs to meet the standards. Otherwise, we're not sending the right people out there into practice if that's where they're going. Or into academia if they want to stay.
Yeah.
So big part of the job, not fun, but we do it with integrity.
I love that. So I know you may have answered this indirectly, but what type of a lecturer are you? Are you the strict cool, mom? Are you the sweet one? When you walk in, do your students go like, "Hey, Ufike, let's do things right"? What's
a little bit of both.
Okay.
Or rather, all three.
Okay.
I do have a level of strictness. You really have to do that. Sometimes students will climb on top of your head and dance.